This is the Money Seed Podcast, where we discuss all things investing, plain and simple, the way it should be. Please remember, this show is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to be investment advice. Welcome back to the Money Seed Podcast. I'm thrilled to have John Schuchman. John is a real estate professional. He's an agent in Pennsylvania. John is the host of the Real Estate Survival Guide podcast, a very successful show that has over 200 episodes released to date. And John has a very interesting story. I'd love to hear more about it. John was fired from his W-2 job about 3 years ago, almost to the day. And John has never looked back. And John has moved on from W-2 and has now created his dream life. John, welcome to the show.
Well, Gabe, thank you so much for having me. So honored to be here. When I get interviewed on shows like this, I always want to start by just thanking you for what you're doing in podcasting. As you mentioned, I also have a podcast, and it can often be a thankless job. I don't know if you ever feel it this way, but sometimes in a podcast, I feel like, are people listening? Does this help people or impact people? So anytime I'm on a show, I just want to thank you, the host, for doing a show. You release these episodes, give them to people, give your valuable information and content to people. So thank you so much for what you're doing and how you're helping people through your podcast. And thank you for having me on the show. I'm excited to jump into it today.
Yeah, thanks for the kind words, John. It's a pleasure to have you. Yeah, so let's dive right in. So 3 years ago, you're working your day job. I'm still working my day job, so I know exactly where you were. And all of a sudden, unexpectedly, you got fired. What did you do next?
Cry. No, so it's so funny, man. And I, in my bio, I kind of say it ends up being the best moment of my life. Actually, on my podcast right now, I'm resharing my story that I kind of shared this past last March, because people really enjoyed those episodes. I've had a lot of new people find my show, and it was convenient because I've been moving. We just in early January moved into a new home. And so during January and February, it was nice to kind of take a little break from the podcast. But first thing I did, man, it was kind of like the crap hit the fan. What do I do now? My wife has been very supportive, and she kind of just encouraged me to apply for jobs, look for jobs. And I kept doing that. Could not get a job. I probably, and this is not an exaggeration, applied for 30 to 50 jobs between February 26th of 2019, when I lost my job, to probably May, June, July of 2019, somewhere in there. And I just, for whatever reason, I could not get a job. I'm a huge person of faith. I just kind of felt, we got to a point, this is kind of the quick version, but we got to a point where we kind of said, okay, you have 2 more interviews over the summer. If you don't get these jobs, we feel, and at this point I had said, I'm going to get my real estate license, but I thought I would get it, get a full-time job, work it, and then hopefully get into real estate later. We kind of said, if you don't get, one of these final 2 jobs, we feel like God is kind of saying to jump into this all in. So we basically, that summer when I didn't get those last 2 jobs, one was with a very big bank, actually with Wells Fargo. I was told I was getting the position. The next day they called me and said an internal candidate was applied at the last minute. They were giving them the job. And so that to us was a sign that I was supposed to go head on into real estate, trust that God would provide for our family. So I really hustled and grinded. One of the things I don't often share was, we were living basically on my wife's $35,000 a year income. She was pregnant at the time, baby due in September. So it was not fun. It was a lot of, tears, emotions, hard work. But I kind of knew, I can't let my wife work while she's pregnant and me not do anything. So I would talk about real estate all the time, hand out business cards. But I was Ubering, DoorDashing, Grubhub, whatever I could do from my car to make money, I was doing. And it's actually kind of funny. I joke with people, but it was true. When I was Ubering, I would have those people as my captive audience. So I'd be like, we'd get towards their house and I'd be like, so do you rent? Do you own? Things like that. It never turned into business, but it really taught me how to interact with strangers in a couple minutes and kind of guide the conversation towards real estate. And I think too, what I learned in that very hard time was if I could serve people, care about people well and do that well, I would have success. Looking back, 3 years later, it's absolutely wild how our family's been blessed, and we're so incredibly thankful for how we've been provided for. My wife's been a champ. Now she works hard in a different way. Now she's a stay-at-home mom. We've got 2 young kids. One's 3.5, one's 2. And so it's a lot here some days, but I love what I do. It's certainly been like a roller coaster journey, but I'm so thankful. And now I get to do what I love, helping clients as well as coaching realtors, and I have a membership for realtors. So it's been a journey, but I'm very thankful for how, it's kind of led me to this point.
That's excellent. And John, so what is it that led you to real estate? I mean, when most people start out in real estate, I'm sure you heard the stats as well. Most real estate agents quit within like 2 years. Most real estate agents can't find deals for the first year or two. So they have a very low income. It's a lot of knocking on doors, a lot of cold calling, a lot of people hanging up on you. And what is it that gave you the confidence that said, you know what, you've got what it takes to make it?
Yeah. And I do, again, I just kind of feel like every step along the way, and I promise, if you're listening to this, like I've had a lot of jobs, I promise, call me, because we will compete. I bet I've had more jobs than anyone in the world. Probably 30 to 40, 50 jobs from the time I was, 16 to 33, 34. And I lost a bunch of jobs, but what I really learned in all those jobs was I was really good at sales and really good at relationships. I really cared genuinely about people. And so real estate for me was, I said, when I couldn't get a job, I'm like, what would combine my gifts of being good at sales and being good at relationships, and I'm on a real estate team, and the team leader's name is Andrew. I now lead the team with him, basically, but because my role has grown over the years. But at the time, I said to Andrew, I remember actually texting him and just saying like, hey, hope you're well. How's real estate going? And he texted me back and said, it's going good. How's the bank? That was my job at the time. And I said, yeah, that's why I wanted to chat with you. So, and we chatted, and I just said, hey man, like I lost my job. This is what we're going through. Val's pregnant with our baby. Like, what do I do? Would I be good at real estate? And he said, if you can survive a year making no money, you would be really good. And he wasn't just telling me what I wanted to hear, right? He actually really believed that I had the skills. So it's awesome now to lead a team with him, because he was the first one to say, you can do this. And so that's kind of what got me into real estate. From there, I kind of, again, you make no money your first year. But what I did, I think one of the benefits I do have is again, good at sales. Even during my W-2 days, I always was kind of an entrepreneur. I did wedding photography on the side. And what I learned in wedding photography was that, anytime I would post a gallery, like, hey, gallery posted on Facebook, I'd get comments, I'd get messages. And it was kind of like anytime a gallery was finished and a client was kind of, the door is closed on them, they have their pictures, a new client would come in. And so from that, I was like, well, what if that applied to real estate? So I started, open houses, showings. And if you're a realtor or you know anything about realtors, we don't get paid till the settlement table. But I was hosting open houses. I was showing a bunch of houses. My first client saw over 60 homes. And anytime I posted on social media, every single time someone would say, wow, you're crushing it. Wow, you're really having a lot of success in real estate. Now, they didn't know I didn't make any money. So what I learned in that was that the social media game, a lot of it's about perception. So I said, now I wasn't going to be dishonest. I wanted to be honest, right? But I'm like, I just need to show people real estate on my Facebook, and it looks like I'm busy. And so that's kind of what I did, man. Like I said, my first client, I showed them 63 homes. Could never do that now. I'm too busy. But instead of complaining and saying, oh, I only have one client, they're running me around, I'm seeing a bunch of homes, I would just post a story on Instagram. They didn't have reels at the time, but like showing houses today to a client. And so it was the same client 3 or 4 times a week, but for about 3 months there, I looked like I had 50 clients. So that's kind of what I learned. And I just started using social media. I still, if you go to my Facebook or Teams page, I still talk about real estate, a few times a week on my page. But what I learned in all of that, Gabe, and even now, is there's still people that message me. So I remember in October, I'm a big Phillies fan. I was actually at a World Series game, someone I went to college with 15 years ago, have not heard from them in 15 years, but they've just been a Facebook friend. They reached out to me, and so I was at the game, and they said, "Hey, me and my wife are looking to buy a home in early 2023. Can we jump on a call?" Have not spoken to them in 15 years. They haven't liked any of my posts, commented anything. But now this happens a couple times a month where people I have not heard from in years will contact me. And so it's kind of like, when you buy a new car and you suddenly all you see is that car. It's the same way where, like, I'm posting about real estate. People don't notice it until they're looking to buy real estate. And then they're like, oh, wait, I think John's a realtor. So sorry, that's a long answer, but that's kind of what I learned in the business and how I've kind of used social media to kind of benefit me in real estate for free.
That's really cool. So yeah, I love the way that you use social media, right? A lot of agents would try to hand out business cards or knock on doors, right? Cold call in. So it seems like you discovered how to leverage social media, which I think is fantastic. And is that where you now get most of your leads? I imagine is through social media.
1,000%. I'm one of those weird realtors, I guess. I don't pay for anything, right? I've created a 6-figure business, and it's, happening organically on social media. And so why, if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of deal. Now our team has looked at like some lead sources and doing some, and it's more so for the newer agents on the team than it is for me. But yeah, people don't want to be pitched, and people don't want to be sold. Right. When I coach people, and I had my membership call this morning, and we're talking about social media. And so I said to them, people are saying, what do I post? How often do I post? And I said, do it organically. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. And so even something silly like your favorite coffee shop, your favorite restaurant, going to dinner with your family, doing daddy-daughter date nights, you spending time with your wife. People love to see that stuff. They want to do business with someone that they feel like they know. So many realtors I talk to, and they're like, I need help with social media. And I'm like, well, yeah, that's because you haven't posted in 5 years. Nobody knows you. Nobody knows what you do. And so that's what I've done. It's worked really well. Now I coach for our team. We have a growing team, and I coach, in a membership. And a lot of it is just be you. Be authentic, and people are going to connect with that and want to do business with you.
I think that's a great message. And where do you find most of your success, right? Is it the older crowd on Facebook, younger crowd on Instagram? Which one works better for you?
Yeah, it's funny that you asked that. Nobody's asked me that before. Really, a lot of my success is Facebook. That's just, I've got 3,500 or 4,000 friends, so they see my stuff. And really the people who work with me the most, right? I'm younger. And so a lot of them are probably the Instagram crowd, but they are still on Facebook, still looking on Facebook and finding me. And what I think is interesting. So for those of you out there thinking like, well, what social media do I use? What social media do I start with? Do I have to do dances? So many people get stressed about social media. And so my biggest thing I would say is use the platform you're already using. When I got started, I didn't say I have to start doing dances or reels or this or that. And I haven't even done video well in my business. It's a way I really am trying to take my business in 2023. But I haven't done a good job of it, the first few years to start my business. But instead of stressing like, oh, I need to do videos, I use the platform I'm already using. And I'm consistent on it, right? When I even think about my social media stuff, the podcast, the membership, etc. When I think about how have I had success, a lot of it is I'm consistent. Every week I make a post, when I have a guest on my podcast. Every week I try to make a post about the membership. Whenever I have anything in real estate, coming soon, under contract, coming soon, new listing, under contract, sold. The client review, usually a video review from the client later. I post all that stuff. And so you might see 123 Main Street as coming soon, for sale, under contract, etc., all the way to settlement. You're not on my social media enough to be like, well, John already posted that house 2 weeks ago as coming soon. You just see, holy cow, their team is like pushing out a ton. I think in 2022, 365 days. And I think we had about 250 to 300 posts. So it's basically like, something popping basically every day and a half. So it helped our team look, busier than we were. And again, it's not being dishonest. It's just leveraging social media and sharing what you want people to see. And so people are like, holy cow, they're crushing it. Well, really, some of those houses were 5 times. So, but I think that's the thing. You share organically. And I think the other thing too, Gabe, this sounds so silly, but like, I get a lot of business because every day I wake up, I get on Facebook, I go to Facebook Messenger, and if someone had a birthday, I just message them, hey, happy birthday. And for your audience, your audience might be saying, that's stupid, that doesn't get you any business. But it's all about staying front of mind. So I want to read something really quick for your audience. So I messaged someone, their birthday was December 6th. And so I messaged them, happy birthday, hope you're well. They said, thank you. I said, you're welcome. I wasn't looking for business. The next day, and this was someone I previously helped look for a primary residence. They put it on hold for a couple of years because of kids in school. Anyway, the next day, hey, I think we mentioned before, we have an old house we're renting out. We gave someone an option to buy it by the end of December. They're going to pass on it. Would you be willing to list it in January? This was literally the next day. So would this person have reached out to me to sell their rental property? Maybe. But again, by staying front of mind, by being in her inbox, she could have forgotten I was a realtor. Maybe not, right? I haven't communicated with her in about a year. But by being in her inbox just to say happy birthday, it was, oh yeah, John's a realtor. Why haven't we told him about the rental property? So those are ways that you can do it super organically, super just checking in, happy birthday, hope you're well. That's it. No, not like, do you want to buy a house? Right? I don't do that. It's just checking in. And I have messages like that multiple times a month where it's just a birthday message or checking in. Hey, been thinking of you guys, praying for you. How are you doing? And that's what happens. That's where business comes from.
Yeah, I think that's a great advice. Yeah. And it makes sense too, right? Because everyone checks their social media feed, once or twice a day. Mm-hmm. And if they see your name regularly pop up, then you're going to be, like I said, you're going to be top of mind, right? So John, quickly, let's talk about your podcast. So you are now well over 200 episodes into your podcast and you're still going strong. How did you start the podcast? When did you start it and why?
Yeah, great question. Thank you for asking, Gabe. So we are at episode like 260, which is absolutely crazy. I have a great friend and mentor. His name's Vincent Pugliese. And he everything he's built, he told me everything I've built from pain. And so that's why I created the podcast. He actually said to me, I was a new realtor. This was 2020. So I was a new realtor, and I think to the point where I thought about the podcast, I had made $30,000 in the real estate business, like nothing, because my first year I only made like 37K. So this was like October, that first full year. I'm like, and Vincent said to me, he's like, you have people that you trained with that are asking you questions every day. This should be a podcast or a membership or whatever. And I'm like, I'm not gifted enough to be a podcaster. And he's like, stop. He's like, there are people coming to you every day asking you questions. Eventually that grows to where you can't have one-on-one conversations with everyone anymore. So why wouldn't you put some of that in a podcast? I told him he was nuts. I argued with him for a few months, decided to start it that coming January. So, January of 2023, I hit 2 years, but all of it was built from pain. 2021, so that was the first year of the podcast. I did 2 episodes a week, really loved it, enjoyed it, and said, hey, I want to grow this. Well, how do you grow it? And if your audience is listening and it's growing every month, boom, add an extra episode. So in 2022, I added a 3rd episode a week, and it was an interview, like a 30 to 45 minute, 50-minute interview, whatever it was. But all of it was built. It's the podcast I wish I would have had when I started my real estate business 3 or 4 years ago. That's what it is. And so I hate to like oversimplify it, but it's always been, what do I wish I would have had? And so now, right, it's very easy to find. If you search real estate on Spotify, you'll probably find me I think people have said it's like the top 5 or 10 that come up. Real Estate Survival Guides, pretty catchy title. Same thing, my episodes, I try to make them creative so that if you're Googling something, you'll probably find my episode. Yeah, but that's what it was. It was all built from pain, things that I didn't, when I got into the real estate business, there was so much I wish I would have learned quicker, faster. And I just didn't. And so it's kind of like, well, how can I serve realtors and give back to them? You know the failure rates, I do, right? 80% first 2 years and 87% are out of the business within 5 years. It's all, what can I do to help people not become a failure, a statistic of failure, right? And to be honest, right, I'm still in my first 5 years. I'm 3.5 in, I'll make it unless something crazy happens, but it's all about now helping people. And what I think is crazy as well, Gabe, is now I have a membership and coaching and social media coaching that is going to make me more than I made my first year in real estate of like very soon. Well, and so, and I say that not to be cocky. I say that for your listeners, to tell you, what are people asking you to do? What are the questions people ask you? What are the things people want to learn from you? Do that in your business, right? So many people, so many realtors come to me about social media. Hey, John, how do you do this? How did you triple your income and create a 6-figure business in year 2 with social media? So I said, let's start a membership about it. So that's really how the membership was born, because people came to me and said, can you help me with this? So my encouragement to your listeners is the things that people are asking you about, right, multiple times a month, week, it's probably a business you need to start to help people.
And John, tell me more about your coaching program. How does that work, and what kind of clients do you have?
Yeah. So again, all built from pain. I started a membership this summer because I wish I would have had something as a realtor when I got started. And people know this. If you're a realtor listening, you know that when you start making money, people look you up, people see you're making money, they try to come get a piece of that pie. So even like there's great coaches out there that are $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000 a month, and they're trying to get new realtors to buy it. What I really did with my membership, there's a couple tiers, but the basic tier is $50 a month, and you get 4 community calls Monday mornings, 10 a.m. Eastern for that. So it's $12.50 a call or whatever it is. I've tried to basically make it so cheap that you can't say no. And then when you see the value, you want to get involved. There's another tier at $150 a month where you get a mastermind call once a month as well. But really, again, it was created from pain. I wish somebody would have been like, for $50 a month, I'll teach you everything I know in real estate. And so that's why I created it. And I'll give a shout out. My membership is full of a lot of young, amazing realtors that are really hungry, trying to learn. Many of them, had listened to my podcast. And so 2 specifically this summer, Josh and Kara said, hey, you keep talking on the podcast about maybe starting a membership one day. When are you going to do it? And I kept saying, oh, I will, blah, blah, blah. And they actually both the same day, I think this was July or August, said, can you cut the crap, right? You keep telling us on the podcast about going out and believing in ourselves and trying new things, but you keep talking about this membership, but you're not willing to start it. We're literally asking you and telling you we need it. They're like, cut the crap, because otherwise, you can't tell us to go do hard things unless you're willing to. And I was like, oh, shoot. So I literally said that day, I'm like, 2 weeks from today, we're starting the membership. I literally, and I think we all have this imposter syndrome. I was like, I'm not good enough. I can't do this. I haven't been a realtor for 10 years. I'm not good enough. All these different things. I started the membership and expected just Josh and Kara to be on the calls. And I'm like, well, it's just going to be the 3 of us. This is going to be awkward. I had 11 people on my first membership call.
Amazing.
And so again, I don't say that in a cocky way. I say that to your audience to say, you are not doing something that you should be doing because you believe you're going to fail. Someone literally said to me, why aren't you doing this? And I said, oh, no, I just need to do. And they said, no, everything you touch turns to gold and you're worried this won't. And I don't believe everything I touch turns to gold. Like I have had success. God's blessed us a ton. Like, but really it was, I was scared to fail. And the coolest thing is like now since, August, when we started, I kind of did a soft launch August, September, October, where it wasn't even public. So it's really like been public for like 6 to 7 months, not even that long. And there's about 30 people in now. But what I learned in that was I had to start, right? That first step is the hardest. So like for you listening to this, whatever it is, people telling you should start a podcast. Yes, you should. Or whatever it is, like start. And failure is not failure. I think, what is it? Albert Einstein. I didn't learn, it wasn't failure. I just learned 1,000 ways to not make a light bulb. Thomas, whoever it was. Thank you. Sorry. I said Albert Einstein. Guys, this is why I'm a realtor, not like an electrician. Anyway, but I think so often we're like, oh, that didn't work. I failed. That's just not true. It's just not true. It's just a lesson.
Exactly. And thank you for saying that, because I agree with you 100%. It's all about overcoming your fears and your anxieties and just taking that first step, right? And after you take that first step, then you enter the cycle where success breeds confidence, confidence breeds success, and so on and so forth. And what I'm learning on my end is like, yes, I have to overcome my fears and anxieties and take the first step. And after that, it's if you're actually going to do something, do it well, do it right, put in a solid effort, right? Whereas
it's so true, man. It's crazy now. And I had to overcome that imposter syndrome. Today, I had a call with someone about the membership, and I was not scared. I was not nervous because I've seen the results from the realtors in there. And I said, here's the results. They're like, well, I want to be around top producers. I'm like, sweet. We have someone in Florida making $400,000 a year, someone in Colorado making $500,000 a year. And I even said to them, like, I don't even make that a year. So sometimes I have imposter syndrome about my own members, but they look at me as, John, yes, I make more, blah, blah, blah. You're teaching me the social media. You're teaching me how to take that 500,000, but then just post some things on social media to make it even more. And so what I think is cool about my membership is I learn from them every single week. We had a great call this week, but I think I'm so confident now that when I talk to somebody, I don't feel pitchy. I don't feel like, oh, I'm trying to sell you on something. I believe in it so much so that I'm like, hey, if money's a holdup, let's get you in for a free trial or just come to a few calls for free, and just check it out and at least build community. Realtors and entrepreneurs were lonely, were depressed, were frustrated, like coming out of COVID, all the stuff we all dealt with and mask and everything else. Like, we need community. And so that kind of has been like my favorite part is like, I didn't mean to create like this community that really cared about each other, but it's happened. And a huge, that's a huge attribution to the amazing members that I get to, teach and coach every week.
And John, if somebody is entering the real estate world for the first time, right, as an agent, I know you could probably talk about this for hours on end, but what are some of the maybe 2 or 3 top takeaways, top tips or advice that you would give them?
Yeah. Believe in yourself for one, right? And I'll look up the story. I won't go into it, but there's a great story about Frank Sinatra. And I released a podcast episode saying you only need one cheerleader, but there's a great story about Frank Sinatra. He was getting older, was on stage forgetting his lines, almost walked off and retired. Some person in the very back of the auditorium stood up and clapped and said, "It's okay. We love you, Frank." And I get goosebumps right now thinking about it. Frank went on to finish that show and that set, crushed it, and then went on to sing for 2 more years, right? And so someone who toured with him at the time said that one guy was the one cheerleader he needed to go for 2 more years. So I would say, like, you only need one cheerleader. Believe in yourself. You only need one cheerleader. My wife has been amazing. Even when I lost multiple jobs while we were married, was a huge supporter, believed in me. And so I would say you need a cheerleader, and that can just be a spouse, a good friend that you trust. You just need that one person telling you every day, I believe in you. I've been open about my story, like going through suicidal things after I lost my W-2 job in 2019, depressed, anxiety. Like she would be at work calling me, making sure like I'm getting out of bed, I'm alive. Like it was bad. But just her caring and saying, I love you, I believe in you, I'm proud of you. Like I'm even getting emotional now thinking about it. Like that kept me going. So believe in yourself. You have more in you than you ever thought possible. You just need one cheerleader. And I would say number 3 is leverage social media. My favorite part about social media, free, guys. It's my favorite word. Free is my favorite word. Use it. And you might say, well, I don't have any houses listed. That's great. I do not care. People want to do business with people that they know, like, and trust. If someone were to ever say to me, I coach social media, and every time I get on and someone's stressed, I say, what if 5 things people don't know about you? What if 5 things people don't know about your business? Right? That right there is 10 posts. You do one of those every other week. You just had 20 weeks. What's that? More than a third of the year, between a third and half of the year in post. Don't overthink it. People want to do business with you. I have people that are like, I don't want to be on video. And guess what? I don't like my voice. I don't like how I look. Nobody does. So I would just say, get over it, suck it up, go do it. So those are kind of the 3. Believe in yourself, 1 cheerleader, and leverage social media. Just start sharing stories, start sharing what your journey. I often tell realtors, I feel like every time I talk to them, I'm like, you are not a realtor, you're a storyteller. What kind of stories is your social media telling, right? My favorite thing about real estate and, the settlement is not, and getting to the settlement table is like, now I can make a cool post with my client smiling at the end and the story that about all the work they did to get there, right? And even at the end of all those posts, you guys can go look. I say it was so nice to be a small part of the process. I could be like, I was a huge part of the process. I showed all the houses, I wrote all the offers, but I try to come at it from a humble perspective of, I was just a small piece of this. Yeah, I did a lot of work, but they were the ones that really, and I just bought a new primary residence in, early January. So it's like, oh my goodness, the client does a lot of work. So yeah, I just think, it's just, use that social media, be a storyteller, have that confidence, and have one person cheering for you.
Sounds good. John, moving a little bit to the industry side of it, I know that 2023 is shaping up to be an unpredictable year. A lot of people are talking about heading into a recession. I know that the home sales in general are declining across the United States. What is your personal outlook on the market, on interest rates, mortgage rates, et cetera?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I wish I had a crystal ball, or I guess like the magic 8 ball, like in Toy Story, to tell you exactly what it's going to be like. But I just, well, first of all, I would say to anyone stressed about that, turn off the news. I think about these questions when I get asked on a podcast, but otherwise I don't, because I'm so focused on, am I checking in with the people I know? Am I doing those organic reach outs on social media? Am I caring about people? I feel like the minute, earlier this year when January 1st hit, I knew there'd be people ready to buy homes, right? And I also knew if rates were a 4.5, a 5, I'd be not even here. I'd be gone all the time because there'd be so many people ready to buy. So I think the things are going to, even out. Coming into 2023, I've heard a lot about like spring and summer. But I think my biggest thing is I'm busier right now as we get into 2023. I'm as busy as I've ever been. A lot of people getting ready to look at homes, a lot of people trying to get offers in. I come at it from the perspective of, I actually think what's happening is great for clients. And you might be like, no one would say that, you're stupid. Well, I helped clients in 2021, right? I helped clients in 2022. And so I saw the crazy. I saw them having to go 30, 40, 50,000 over list, waive appraisals, waive inspections. Now I can tell my clients like, hey, I talked to the agent. They've been on the market 10 days. Like they would consider an offer with seller assist for your closing cost, right? So many of my clients got priced out. A lot of first-time home buyers are like, I can't afford it. Now, do they have a little less buying power now with higher rates? Absolutely. But I would, in a way, I would rather they have a little higher of the rate on the front end, but they be able to like get inspections, get an appraisal, like not have to cover an appraisal gap. Like some people were just being kind of a little stupid about it, like with all the risks they were taking. So I actually think 2023 is going to be an amazing time to buy a home. I really do.
And John, if let's say mortgage rates are around 7%, or maybe let's say they go to 8%, would you advise your clients to go for a fixed rate mortgage or a variable rate?
Oh, I'm a Dave Ramsey guy. We did a debt-free scream in this past year. I would never go with a variable rate mortgage. It's just a lot of risk. And, I have a HELOC on a property that I own, and, the payment, I think in a span of a few weeks, it was like it would jump from a 6 to a 6.75, and then a 6.75 to a 7.5. And I think especially your primary residence where you need to make that payment, I don't want the risk attached to that of like worrying about if that jumps, right? I just don't.
And John, I imagine that some of your clients are investors as well. I like real estate. I'm a real estate investor. What are some of the tips you would give to people like me when I'm working with an agent, when I'm looking for properties? What are some of the mistakes investors make, and how can investors work better with agents?
Yeah, well, I think the first thing, what I think I would say to agents, to investors, is honestly some of the same things I say to realtors. Like, put yourself out there. And you might be like, well, how would I leverage social media? Well, I know people that approach me and are like, well, I have this property. I don't really want to list it on the MLS. I don't really want people in my house. And so they might be willing to give up 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, depending on the range on that property, if to just sell it to an investor, for a cash offer. So I would say that's where I'm like, okay, Gabe, if you're looking in this city for a property, you should make a post and say, hey guys, who do you know that's not interested in listing their home on the MLS? Who, does anyone in, San Francisco, whatever it is, have some properties where like it needs a ton of love and they don't have the equity to do that, or they just need to get out, they have a family situation. I would put posts out there and say, if you know anyone, tag them in the comments or send me a private message. And I think it's all about connections. Again, if you call me, so let's say you call me and you say, hey, Jimmy gave me your information. I hear you're elderly and trying to move into a retirement home. I heard your house needs some work. And they say, yeah, I really only need 300,000. And maybe that the house would be worth 4, and 5 if you do some renovations on it. But maybe they don't care about the getting top dollar. They care more about the security of their home and people not being in it, and they care about just getting it done quickly. And so if you say I can get this done in 21 days rather than 60, it might be worth it for them. So and I think real estate investors, and just clients in general, the most money is not always the top offer, right? It all depends. It's always scenario specific, right? So you can leverage social media to say, well, what's your situation and how can I serve you in this process?
All right, John, as we move toward wrapping this up, do you have any favorite books or resources that you leaned on during your journey? Anything you want to share?
Yeah, I feel like I always say that the traditional ones, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, and oh my gosh, Kiyosaki. Now I forget the book.
Yeah, that's Rich Dad, Poor Dad, Kiyosaki.
Yeah. So that one, and I'm like I said, I know some people disagree with him in terms of real estate. I'm a big Dave Ramsey guy, and I believe I get debt in terms of real estate, but I would say I kind of felt like a lot of the success came when we got out of consumer debt, where the stress of a car loan, credit cards, et cetera, wasn't hanging over us. So I would say, listen to Dave's stuff. And my friend, Vincent Pugliese, who you can look up, he has a great book, The Wealth of Connection, that he released this past year. And literally talks about doing relationships, doing business different. And so if you've been trying the pitch method, the slide into your DMs, if you've been cold calling, I would encourage you. And that's kind of a lot of what I've done has been built on. He mentors me, and then he put some of this into a book. So you can check out The Wealth of Connection by Vincent Pugliese. So those are a few. And That's a great question. So I appreciate you asking that.
Yeah, thanks, John. I'll put those in the show notes. And maybe, John, a little bit more about which cities are you actively working in, and how can people reach out to you?
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm basically Lancaster County, grew up in Berks County. So kind of all around that Southeast PA region, kind of up to Philadelphia. And I think my biggest thing is like, and I say this on every interview, this isn't a pitch because for a lot of you, I don't have anything to sell. I mean, but I would say if you're struggling with social media, like let me know. I'd love to help you. I mean, I do this for realtors every single week, so I'd love to help anybody. And I can even give you the link, Gabe, but I do these free social media audits where I can jump on 15 to 30 minutes and just take a look at your social media. You got to have thick skin because I'll probably get on and say, this sucks. Here's a couple things you can do to improve it. But I will give you one thing that I tell everybody. So, and this is something you can use, Gabe, and your audience. So many of you are investors or realtors or whatever you are. And if I go to your Facebook profile or Instagram, I cannot find a way to call you. If you go to my Facebook right now, the first thing in the info, I think it says podcast host, coach, realtor, love helping people fulfill their dreams or whatever. And then it has my phone number. I want my clients or potential, realtors for my coaching or social, whatever it is, I want them to be able to touch base with me, right? So even if you're an investor listening to this, like, oh, hey, they might have a property, but it's impossible to find your phone number. Like put your phone number in your bio. So anyway, that's a quick one, but anybody's welcome to schedule one of those free calls. I love to do them. It's no strings attached. I just love helping people. And really, you can look me up on Facebook, John Schuchman. You can add me or just see my stuff. And you can go really to check out the other stuff I have, the podcast, the membership. You can go to therealestatesurvivalguide.com, therealestatesurvivalguide.com. But Gabe, thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure to speak to you today.
Yeah, John, thank you very much for your time. I love your story and I love your passion, man. Thanks very much. And keep on doing what you're doing.
Thanks, man. And I will say, all right, so this is the other thing I say on podcasts. If you are listening to Gabe's show and you really enjoy, what they're doing on the Money Seed podcast, the best thing you can do to help them is go to Apple, give them a 5-star review, tell them what you like about the show. And that's how podcasters grow their show, right? So go to Apple and give Gabe and Chris a review to help their show grow. That's something that's a way you can give back to him for the content that they give to you each and every episode.
Awesome. Thanks very much, John. I appreciate it. All right, man. Have a great night.
You too. Thanks so much, Gabe.
Bye-bye.